Okay, so how to use Postgres with OCaml. Here I'm going to be using the project from, I think, 2 videos ago. It's going to be linked something on the card, which was a simple CRUD. You write messages. So we had our storage, which at the time was a JSON. And to go here is to replace it by Postgres because it's a real database using OCaml. So before that, please don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button and enable the notifications. It actually matters. So let's begin talking about which tools we are going to be using, how we do in OCaml, and alternatives and why I choose what I choose. So to begin with, I'm going to be using a cacti. Not exactly sure how to spell it. How to say it. Cacti, which is, let's say how they describe themselves. It is a unified interface relational database libraries. Actually don't care about it. I just want to use PPX wrapper, which is a cool PPX. For you who does not know, PPX in OCaml stands for preprocessor. It's essentially a fancier way to do macros. You have input AST, and then you have output AST, and you have a piece of code in the middle, which it may be actually like do a lot of stuff. So you have PPX wrapper for SQL. You also have PGOCaml, which we could be using. I have some problems with PGOCaml, but it's a really cool idea. I really like it. There is also GraphQL PPX if you want to do GraphQL carries. So as you can see, you're right, your GraphQL. And in OCaml, this symbol here, which is like a percent sign, it means a extension point. So I can show you a good example. Let's switch to OCaml here. So if you do something like this, you can see the AST here. It's a PXP extension. So that's what a PPX mostly do. You also have attributes, which is something like, if you had this, you could say deriving, for example, and that's also an attribute. But okay, we're going to be using cacti to use PPX wrapper. With PPX wrapper, you essentially write your SQL carries and you get mostly what you would expect. So we have cacti LWT, because LWT is our promises. So we want it to be async and get the most throughput possible. PPX wrapper, as I mentioned, in PPX wrapper LWT. So that's all the dependencies that I added previously. And also we are going to be using EUID-M to generate our IDs. So instead of going with an incremental ID, I want to go with the UIDs. They are simple. And yeah, so let's begin with. First, we need to set up it. I have some SQL carries here, which I'm not going to do live coding of SQL because I'm terrible at it. So they're mostly simple SQL carries. So let's go here. It's running. We need to first set up cacti itself. I don't remember by head how to set up cacti itself, but I have an old project of mine, which should be around here. I can go examples, storage, and it's something like this, but I'm not going to follow exactly it. First things that I need to explain to you is how the PPX works, but essentially that's the goal. So this project does around the same of what I'm going to be doing here. So if I go on to my backup, let's first get the first carry, which is create table if not exist. It's going to set up our database to us. So we want to satisfy, essentially what we want to do is satisfy this interface without changing it. So we can change only the storage without changing anything else. But you're going to see that there is good and bad ways to do it. Okay, so this carry is create ensure table exists. That's going to be our layout for our table. So you have an ID, an user ID, which I'm not going to call it user ID here. I'm going to call it how did I do it? Username. So username, ID, and body. So with this, essentially, he's going to parse it and check if that's valid SQL. I can, let's say, if I do this, it's going to say to me a really bad error, which at the end of the day means syntax error at or near the TAXBLE. So yeah, when it's right, it works. When it's wrong, it breaks everything. It's not great, but it at least does not allow you to do some really bad shit. So yeah, you can see that this accepts an unit, a module helper connection, module helper connection, and it returns an unit with some stuff. I'm going to be doing something here. I'm going to define a module type called DB. So, and it's going to be an alias to connection. That means that like this module is our database. But I want to do a bit of trickery. Here I'm going to make DB and unit like this. So when you do, it's going to be DB and unit. It's going to be unit and DB. Why do I want to invert this? The reason why I want to invert it, I could use a fun flip, but I think that's easier for you all to understand. It's because then I can just partially apply the module. And here we are going to be using a singleton. So really bad stuff. But maybe not. Let's see how we go. But first, let's define our carries. Second carry is, I'm not going to have a read by ID yet. We can implement it in the future. But for now, we have read all. Here it's ensure messages tables exist. So ensure table exists. And here it read all. So we know our storage is about messages, and that's about it. If you look here, he's complaining about an error. Unbound record field. Why is that so? Because this ID essentially does not exist. When you do something like this, what he's going to try to find is replace this by the ID field of a record. But here we don't have it, and nor we have here. But we can do this and add it as an ID of string, which is going to be simple, hopefully. Okay, so read all, and yeah, so now you can see it returns a message option. So if it found, oh, it's not record out. Let's find out on the docs. So there is record out. There is some more. Okay, that should be there, but there is another one. Because that's definitely not right, because this can return a list. So yes, record in, record out, function out. Do we have a list somewhere? Let's try it. Oh, I think maybe I have an idea. Maybe I should just remove this. No, if I remove it, as you can see, it returns string option. Oh, it's not get opt, right? That was it. So get opt is to get a single one. We want to get many here for read all. And now, as you can see, it's a message list. Record out essentially tells you to tells wrapper to returns like a message, a record. Here it's a message, and yeah, as you can see, it's not fitting. It doesn't matter to us. We can essentially say this. So we are changing a bit of our external interface, but not by much. Essentially just adding an ID. And okay, so we have this, and then we also need to go and have a way to insert it. So insert, it's going to be from here to here. He's also complaining because user does not exist. It's username. And yeah, it's not user ID, it's username. So yeah, that is checking against, that is all the carries needed. And then we need a way to apply the carries. And for this, I'm going to look on this old piece of code of mine and figure out how to create a connection. So to create a DB, essentially we can have this because that's what you're going to do. If it fails, it just raises an exception. We need our connection URL. So that's our connection URL. You should probably put this on a variable or a config file or something like this. And then we need to create our pool. Our pool should be, here I'm going to just do match cockt LWT of connect pool and max size of 10. And then URI of string in connection URL. Like this. And if it is okay, we just return to pool. If it is an error, and that's going to happen quite frequently actually, we say show of error. So what is this saying is, when you create the pool, creating the pool may fail. Like as you can see here, it may fail. If it fails, we crash the program essentially. We raise an exception globally and we don't handle it, it just crashes. So yeah, that's bad. And then we need a way. I'm going to make a helper here to dispatch it. So because I'm making this singleton, there is better ways to do it, but I want something simple to you all to understand. What I'm going to be doing here is essentially let of result and cockt LWT pool use f pool. So that's going to, when this is called, he's going to find one connection on the pool for us. And then if it failed to find, we fail again with carry LWT. So like match result with OK data. If so, we just return data. If it is an error, we do LWT fail of carry failed of cockt error show of error. So again, here dealing with exceptions because this can fail. When this fail, we just raise another exception, but this time through LWT, and in a way that is easy to serialize in the future. And we also need to dispatch a carry. We need to first. So here's the same stuff. I'm going to just use LWT main run. We need to say, I think this f, yeah, this f should be, let's try to call dispatch with ensure table exists, but it should be like this, I think. So as you can see, this is going to be executed, but that should be executed when the module starts. So every time our application is starting, we just run it. What this is going to do is essentially run run this carry. So it creates the carry and run it through the database. That's okay, that's simple. But we could do it better. I'm not into, like here we could say this. So no need for this. Same stuff here, because these carries are all static. So like they are not going to vary. This one is not. As you can see, this one has a message. So we dispatch and ensure table exists, and then we ensure our table exists. The next piece is then replacing these two functions above, which are read all messages. To read all messages, we just need to do something like, instead of dispatch, we could say dispatch, right? But here, what I'm going to be doing is read all. I'm going to shadow it. So essentially here, and then dispatch of read all. As you can see, every time I call it, it's going to return a message list LWT. That is exactly what we are expecting. And also we need to insert. So here we are calling read all messages, and we also need to call it insert message, but that may change in the near future. Insert message. So same stuff, dispatch, insert. Here it should be insert, right? But we need a message to insert. So like insert the message and message unit LWT. That's exactly what we had. So let's delete it. Let's delete the code that we had before. So this, and that's going to be our new code. It's a bit of a mess. I'm going to add some comments. So like here we are running migrations essentially, and that's read all. But I'm going to define read all in a little in a bit different way. So like this, and then it's only accessible for this function. Now also move this so that it's only accessible through this function. And yeah, as you can see, our carries. Here is carries. Carries, migrations. That's the setup of the connection. So like setup of connection. I'm going to move this to above and define it as types. So that's a helper, helpers, types. I also want to make this exception public. So if it happens, I'm going to put it below. If it happens, users can handle it. So users of our module can handle it. And yeah, so we have types, helpers, setup of the connection, setup of database pool, actually, it's better. And this should work if I had a Postgres running. So let's start a Postgres. I think I have one, but I need to do, let's see, docker run. I think I need to create a database by hand. I forgot about it. I'm not sure how to do it. Examples, no, it's going to be using OCaml with Postgres. Oh, using Postgres with OCaml. So we have our SQL running, but that's not going to work as we expect. The password is right. If we try to run this, you can see it's not this, it's crud, right? Crud.x. It failed to connect. The carry is could not connect to server, connection refused. Is server running? We can check if it is running. So localhost 4532. It's not running for some reason. Docker logs. Did I forget to add something? Oh, yeah, I need to add the binding. So let's delete this. So docker using Postgres OCaml. It's Docker time. We need to understand what failed. Docker run forward port TCP. Let's Google Docker forward TCP port. Oh yes, minus p. Okay. So again, we can go here. Docker run minus p, and it's going to be 32 to 4532. And then if I go here and try this, it's running. Nice. So let's clear. I think I still need to do something, but let's try. What happens if I go to, okay, as expected. If I go to messages, oh, actually, maybe it's working. I was expecting to need to create a database. So post messages. I think I need to post also an ID now, so it's going to fail probably on this. Yes. And then I need to post an ID, which let's say it's ABC for now. That's not a real ID. Internal server error. Why does this happen? We should have error exception to be able to understand it, but I'm lazy and I didn't add. So why does this fail? Let's see what happened here. Oh, it's because it's not an EU ID. Yeah, that's something which I did wrong. I should not expose this. So actually, we should have two layers on our database. So that's message stored, And then we also have the message itself. That needs, like, there is no need for this to include, to be serializable. And then we need message. And essentially, we need to create ID to our internal one. And here, when we do this, we're going to make something like this, and it should be ID, username, and body in, and we just return the ID, the username, the body. Oh, it's not this. This one should be messages, and we need to map them. So it should be messages list.map of fun. That was it. So here, and also l.c.return, something like this. Okay. As you can see, the ID doesn't matter for us for now. We can say just this and this. And also here it's the same stuff. We need to create ID here. So to create ID, I also had that example there using UIDM. So we just do something like this. And our message should be username and body. Here we are going to do in. I forgot to add the library on UIDM. Actually, let me keep this around here because it's cuter. And Versailles language server maybe? Okay, so now we have the ID and we need to insert ID, username, and body. That should be it. Okay, so yeah, this is a message. Oh. Actually, we can define this in the opposite order to not need to say the type, but it's better like this. And then yeah, it's typing. Let's see what happens when we try to execute it. Remember, now we don't need to put the ID anymore, and that was still a failure. Interesting. So let's debug it and see why it failed. Print line ID. Postman. The ID. So he tried to create it. Let's do LWC catch. Fun. Exception, raise exception. And here I want to do print backtrace. I think print backtrace is not going to work. Yeah, as expected. We need to enable the backtraces. I should have enabled it actually before, so. Oh. Like this, and then we can try to run it. And still, wait, didn't it fail like here? What? Yeah, what happened? I'm not sure why it's not printing the backtrace. I have an idea on what failed, because there is not a lot that could fail here. So we could say easily print, not print to string. Yes, of exception, and then print and line. That's what happens when you suppress all your errors. You cannot debug it. So it's saying something. ID is of type UID, but expression you need to write or cast expression. Oh, got it. Or so this is not actually. Maybe let me try something. What happens if I do this? Column ID is of type UID, but expression is of type text. You need to write. Maybe I can go here. I forgot how I did it. No, string is not a valid type to him. It should be string, but I was doing this before. That's what happens with live coding. Oh, I need to enable UID stuff, if I remember correctly. Not sure, because that's an ID. Maybe something changed with an update or something like this. For now, I'm going to just say it's a text. So it's a text. And then let's restart our database and see what happens. Not everything can go well. Yes, that was it. And then I can probably carry here. No, carry here, it's failing. Why? Maybe it should be varchar. Read all messages. String ID. Oh, it's not. It should not be as user ID. It should be username. And yeah, that was it. ID. Probably the carry was wrong. Let's try again. Same stuff here. I don't get it. What I'm doing wrong this time. So let's copy the code and see if we can debug it. By the way, the code is going to be on the description below, as always. So if you got tired at this point, which I think it's reasonable, you feel free to skip it. Oh, wait. What? But I didn't do anything. So it was working. Let's try again. Added. Now it failed. Like what? How can... That doesn't make sense to me. Like when I did this, it did work. But no exception happened. What the fuck? And if I go here and try like this. Oh, now it's working. Who knows? Code! So essentially it's working. As you can see, there was kind of a lot of troubleshooting, mostly because I don't have something to do error handling into OCaml. I think on this project I had, let's see, error. Yes, I had error handling. So essentially when it fails, it's just give us internal server error. But that's life, that's OCaml for you. There is kind of rough edges. But yeah, it's now working. I'm not sure why it was not working. I have no idea why it was not working at that time. But as you can see, it works. And after you get it to work, it's kind of reliable. As you saw, if I put the wrong field here, it's going to give an error. If I put the wrong type here, let's say I tried to make this an int, it's going to say, oh, wait, it's not this type. Essentially, as you can see, oh, int is not compatible with string. So that's one of the cool things in OCaml. We have even fancier setups like PG OCaml. Maybe in the future I can make a video with PG OCaml. PG OCaml essentially talks to your database directly. So during build, he knows, oh, that, like, you don't need to say that's a string. But there is some rough edges, and yeah, that was it. As you can see, I actually had no need to change this. So that's one of the cool things of the module system in OCaml. If the module interface does not change, you don't need to change anything else. You can think about it as an abstraction, like a class or an interface into something like Java or Ruby or something like this. I'm not sure interface in Ruby. Anyway, yeah, you can see that's kind of cool, and we can easily define this kind of structure, which is we have internal types because we changed it. So when you change, now you have internal data. Like the ID here, I don't want to expose it to the user, but I want to use it for tracking. I'm not sure why UID didn't work. I don't remember if I needed to do anything on the database. But yeah, it's working. Code is going to be on the description below. Please don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button. Again, enable the notifications. Share it with your friends. Let's see. But yeah, that was it. Have a nice day. Bye.